Hey everyone, it's Yue from the Strictly Broken YouTube channel, and to probably a lot of the people who are subscribed here from the Weiss days, the Weiss Schwarz days, I'm making a Weiss Schwarz deck profile, and don't get it like twisted. I'm not. It's probably not going to be a recurring thing, but we're actually like as you can tell, there's a clearly a different level of quality that we're pushing for right now with what's going on here setup wise, and we're just doing tests for the sound quality, the video quality, et cetera, and no better way to do that. And a lot of people have been asking, "Yo, Yue, can you make another Weiss deck profile sometime?" And two birds, one stone here. So yeah, definitely, Weiss players, leave any feedback you have for like the sound quality, the video quality, whatnot. And yeah, this is a Mob Psycho deck profile. Mob, though I don't play as much Weiss anymore, I'm a big Mob Psycho anime fan. Like I love that anime. It's like one of my favorites of all time, actually, to be honest. And yeah, so I had to make this deck list at least. And yeah, let's profile it. And please, for sure, leave feedback about this. Besides the fact that it's awesome, by the way. So yeah, let's get started on the profile. Starting off, 4 of this placement. Yeah, 4 of this Teruki level 0. It's similar to the Goblin Slayer level 0 that's gets everyone super annoyed all the time. It's a little bit worse though. You need to field 2 other characters other than this card to gain the same skill, the 3k plus 1 level. But when it's live and it's just as strong. Super good card, and I wanted to play in this deck for sure. Not much else to say. The Goblin Slayer one, a lot of people have said stuff about it. It's really good going first, or even going second because it's just so big power-wise. 3 copies of the Mob Brainstorm, a salvage, tap self, Traintless. Traintless being very important because you have some very good Reagan support cards that don't have the Esper trait. So the fact that this can salvage Traintless is just really convenient there. It also gives Reagan's on-field Esper, which is useful for your early plays. It's used, yeah, mainly for your early play that has a 4 or more Esper early play condition. So yeah, also Climax Phase Pump 500, very typical, but pretty good to be honest, because you can, mitigate power during the battle phase to try to tackle over stuff, and the power does come up. Like, make no mistake, it does come up quite a bit. Next up, 3 copies of the Ritsu Riki. There's a lot of people that, if you play less than 4 Rikis, they start getting very, very upset. And to be honest, Riki is an absolutely phenomenal card going first. I totally understand why playing 4 is what a lot of people want to be doing, because just getting that extra like 3-4% of drawing it going first, it makes your early game so much stronger. But honestly, going second, Riki becomes almost just completely like a brick. If your opponent rushes you, attacks twice or even 3 times, it's like a crit or something, and you go to high damage, you don't even want to use Riki's effect anymore. So I want to mitigate the fact that I don't really want to draw Riki going second, but I still want to draw it going first by playing 3, and that's what a lot of people in Japan are doing right now. That's what a lot of other people playing English are doing also. But it's also totally okay to play 4. It's just it's your preference here at this point. If you want to mitigate your draws going second by a little margin, and then cut it down to 3, or even some people cut it down to 2. But this card, I wouldn't cut it down further than 3 because it does have a very good second effect. When you have experience 2, it's on play pump 2k to something, which helps your level 1s get reverses, helps the mid game, just making sure you're killing your opponent's cards, which is ultimately like super important to waste. So great card. Next up, 3 copies of this card. It's 500 global, and whenever you trigger a Pants trigger, so blue Pants triggers, the ones that salvage Climaxes, you can discard a card from your hand to salvage a character. Again, not trait restricted. You can grab your Reagan cards with it, so it's absolutely great. And the best part about this is it turns all of your Pants triggers that grab Climaxes that are great but not great in large numbers in your hand, and you can cash them in for characters, which is just phenomenal. This card is definitely one of the selling points of playing Mob, and you definitely want to get to this card in your game plan as fast as possible. If you don't have it in your opener, you're Rickying for this basically every time. You're drop searching for this every time, making sure you get it to make your Pants triggers so much better throughout the game. Next up, these are the Traintless cards that we play. We play 1 copy of the Ritsu. It's a ditch bond for the explosion counter, which I do play. Some people are not a fan of the explosion counter in Mob. I am, because it enables what I think is the best card in the set. Going on to that in level 1 more. And it also clock bonds for the level 3 mob, which you don't use that often, but it's great to, like, let's say you're 2-0 and you want to play your 1 cost early play healer, but you don't have damage, so you can't do it. This card can sometimes enable that. It's not great because it's traitless, right? So not traitless, but it doesn't have the Esper trait, so it doesn't. You have to like play over it then to play the early play. But sometimes you don't want to pay 2 stock to play those kind of cards. Sometimes you're 3-0 and you have to play a 2 soul beater anyways, and you want to get a heal value anyways. You might as well just take the damage. You're gonna heal anyways, so you can heal now. And yeah, you also got the explosion mob to your hand. So sometimes you do use the card effect, but more often than not, I'm using it to dish bond for my first copy of explosion if I don't have it yet. You definitely need to get the explosion into memory at level 1. So yeah, I play this. You can search for it if you need to get that explosion encounter. Next up, I play 1 copy of this Reagan. It level swaps, which is probably the most important part of it. I play a red early play, and that's the only red card I play as a 4 of. If you whiff that and you go into level 2, it's really hurt actually, because that's your only red. You can't play the card then, and it's like pretty good, a pretty essential part of the game plan basically. So having access to this as a searchable card to guarantee that I can do my game plan is great. It's also a dish climax salvage, so if it's in your hand and you have the red early play, it has a decent effect, especially because you're playing 8 pants. So pretty solid. Next up, another Reagan, which is it's a stock swap, pay 3 stock swap. Some of the most annoying decks, yet very strong decks in Weiss Schwarz are the stock compression decks. And even if your opponent's deck isn't a stock compression deck, if they're having a great game, they're usually stock rich, and you need to stop those or else you can't win the game. So having this as a 1 of is just a good insurance against people who are getting really lucky, or those stock compression decks. The second effect is okay to racist traits. I definitely cannot think of a situation where racing traits comes up, but I know they exist. So 2 useful effects as well, but honestly, pay 3 stock swap is its main use. Finally, 2 copies of Drop Search Reagan, just a consistency card. Going second, Ricky is not good, and you often want to use Drop Search instead because you don't have to take that damage. This card also has a great, honestly, really good first effect, because so it blinks something on the field, sends it to memory, and then calls it back out on your opponent's field. Great at stopping a really stacked up Rem and ReZero, or letting you frontal attack against Fate when they have Rider set up. So honestly, solid card. Play 2 because you can actually drop search for the second one, and then you can blink both Riders. Also, it's just consistency boost, because you're not playing 4 Ricky. Having the drop search is another consistency booster, so you can have access to all the cards in your deck. That's 18 zeros. That's all I play for zeros. I'm pretty happy with the zero lineup. I think, all things being said, your priority as zero is definitely getting this back row. It's like super essential to the game plan. And once you get it, you're like online. Every pants you trigger is a gate trigger or a pants trigger. Onto level 1, I have the 4 explosion counter. We're playing this because I actually play around this card. The level 1 that I'm just gonna show it now. This is the level 1 that I think is just absolutely bonkers. So it came. They made it in Adventure Time as well. It was 5K. This one's 5/5 if you have experience 2, and it basically gets on reverse stock charge from top deck on both players' turns. Meaning you counter over something, you're getting a stock. On your turn, you reverse something, you get a stock. I love this card. I like it more than my own level 1 combo in the deck. So I actually cut copies of my level 1 combo, because every time I could reverse, I'd rather use this card over my level 1 combo a lot of the time. It's so good because it basically lets your brainstorms, it lets your drop searches, it lets your explosion counters be free in the mid game. It lets your early plays cost less stock if you're getting value out of this card. Basically, the value that this card brings to the deck is like it'll last throughout the whole game, and it just gets you. It makes your game plan so much smoother. Like, some people play level 1 combos that are on reverse stock charge. This one isn't tied to a combo, and it does that as long as you get the first explosion counter in memory. It's absolutely incredible. I'm a big fan of this card actually. Explosion counter, the fact, and I just want to touch on explosion counter. The fact that it is a counter is great because you want to get the first one into your memory on your turn to make this live as soon as possible. But following that, it's just a good insurance card that's in your hand. Let's say you trigger Climax in the first 2 battles, and now at least you have an explosion counter that on opponent's turn you can react to your bad triggers, do something on your opponent's turn to get out of those deck states that you probably don't want to be in. So I like the fact that it's a counter, but you can use it for both situations. It's great mill. It's just good utility mill on a card that is unfortunately not searchable, but you can bond for it, so it's kind of searchable. And it also enables your level 3 mob explosion to be 12k hexproof, which is not nothing. Some people are like, that effect is basically useless on the card. It is not useless on the card. It's great insurance against money counters, rest counters, and stuff. Like it is actually quite tangible, the effect to be hexproof 12k. And people discounting the fact that does that is, I think, discounting it's discounting a bit too much. The power and the hexproof is actually really good. And then onto my level 1 combo. I play 2 copies of it. It's this Ritsu that is not very good. It's an on reverse surge combo, but I play it because it does something when I don't have combo, which is quite nice. If I hit level 1 first and I have this card and I don't have combo, I reverse their card. It becomes 5/5 level 2, and then if I counter over them because they're playing a deck that has like a smaller level 1 game, it'll gain another marker and it'll be 7k level 3. Basically what it does is every time it reverses, it gains a marker off top deck and it gains 15k in a level. And I love that. I love the fact that I can play this card, and if I'm in the correct deck state or playing against the correct matchup, I can just farm this kind of it is random because sometimes you'll marker off a climax, but if I hit characters, I'm just so ahead because I have this extra free compression, and this card's starting to farm. It's getting bigger. If they don't have an out for it, it'll just keep farming. I could choose to stop because it's optional. So in some matchups, this card will carry the game like single-handedly. It also has a reverse combo. So like if you have one of these in a lane that keeps getting bigger, you can just move it around the board when it's your turn again to get that one poke reverse, and then your climax becomes like committing the climax for the soul becomes not a neg anymore. So I like playing 2 of it just because of that. But make no mistake, every time I have the choice to reverse more than one, I'm usually getting one of these guys to reverse to get the stock. So you definitely don't need to play more than 2 of this card. Next up, I have counters. So counters go great with this game plan, which is kind of like a wall-based game plan. Your cards are 6k on opponent's turn, right? So if you counter to 8k, that gets over a lot of Konosubas of the world, the Fates of the world, some Sal variants even, like Yukis that were clean cutted, so they clean cut the Yuki and it's not big anymore. Like 8k is a relevant stat line, and you can start farming on opponent's turn even when you start playing this counter. So this is like the focus of my level 1 game, just being big on opponent's turn, getting farm up with this and this, and leading into level 2, you have a lot of stock. Hopefully you have a good amount of compression, and yeah. Next up, for the last level 1 card, I play 1 copy of the Anti-Change Bomb. So it comes in, if you check a level 1 or lower, you send the top card, you send that card to stock, so it can be free sometimes, which is great. Great out against standby decks that can standby out something really big at level 1. So because you can't reverse that with your cards. They're on offense, they're like 6/5 with a climax. They're 6k with a climax, 7k. With if you have another assist or the brainstorm, they could be 6/5, right? 7/5. So you need to out those standby decks sometimes, because if they get to start farming, you're going to have a tough time. Your characters cannot kill their big characters. So having this at level 1 is great. It's fantastic. And it's just insurance against those kind of decks. Or if you rush your opponent hard and they hit level 2 first and they start early playing, this card also outs those situations. Because let's say you're playing against Ryu and they get rushed to 2 and they play the Rem. A lot of decks will just start falling behind after that because the Rem's starting to farm and whatnot. But having these level 1 versions of these anti-change bombs, great way to answer the Rem. You just answer it off the board, you're done. You don't have to deal with it anymore. So that's pretty good. Level 2, I play 1 card. I play anti-change counter, which is great because in some ways it synergizes with the 1/0 because I built so much stock with it that my anti-change counter doesn't feel bad to use. A lot of people don't like using anti-change counter because they're pay 3 and it feels like they spent the turn building that stock and now they have to use it on anti-change. But now you can use it and you feel amazing about it because you got so much stock from using this, and you, you get the the anti-damage effect of an anti-change and everything. So yeah, I really like this card. I thought about upping it to 2, ultimately cutting it to 1 to fit in this card, which is actually very important as mentioned earlier. So 1 is fine. You have the level 0, the bring it out again. You have this card to, so say you use the anti-change counter. When you trigger pants on the next turn, you can get it back. So if you need to use it more than once, it's pretty easy to get it in this deck. So yeah, that's my only level 2. Level 3, I have 3 copies of Mob Explosion. There's nothing to be said about this card. It is, so 12k, 1 cost, level 3 with a finisher effect. It's just your go-to finisher in this deck. Restanding is not crazy broken, but having hexproof on a restander is what you want. Having restanders be big is what you want. And having it be cheap costed, meaning if you don't have the climax, you just play a 2-soul beater for 1 stock, is also what you want. I don't play 4 because I don't see myself using it more than once or twice. Like on a turn, I don't want to do triple. I think triple, and even if you want to do triple, having 3, you have access to it. So it's not like you can't do triple with 3. I just never felt like I needed 4. Because like in the third column, I'm usually using something like this card. It's an early play healer, 2 or less stock. It has on attack, pay 2, ditch 1, burn 1. Is it on attack or on reverse? It might be on reverse. Oh, it's on attack. That's good. So yeah, just the fact that it's a healer, an early play healer that has a small finishing effect is what I want to see, because it has multiple uses, right? It has the early play use, finisher use, the healing use. Does everything in 1 card, and I'm a big fan of it. Nothing else to be said about it, really. The last one is, I alluded to it many times in the profile, is the red early play show. So it's a 1 cost healer. When you have 4 more espers, you can play it down, dish 1, heal to stock, and it has, when it reverses a level 2 or higher character, you get the stock charge 1 off top on reverse. So that effect does come up if they play like a weenie early play, and you can counter it with show. You can get the stock that you paid for the show back immediately, meaning you're very stock efficient throughout the entire game. But mainly used as a level 1 cost, level 3 early play 1 cost healer that you can use at level 2 to stay at level 2 for maybe 1 or 2 more turns before hitting level 3. So pretty good. I am a fan of this card, and I wish I had more reds so that I don't feel like I have to level 1 of these all the time, but I just can't fit in the reds that I want to be playing. So that's it for level 3s. That's 10. And then just for climaxes, I have 4 copies of the level 1 climax, 4 copies of the Mob Explosion climax. It's 8 pants, to synergize with, again, this. Everything revolves around this. And yeah, the fact that you're playing 8 pants means you get to reuse counters, and that's like the key thing. When you're playing like a wall-based deck, reusing your counters is just too free. Like at level 2, when you start playing your early plays down, you can just reuse the counters. You can reuse the early plays for that matter. Like when you trigger pants, you can grab another show or another one of these. It's great. It's good stuff. Big fan. So yeah, that is the deck profile. Let me just take a look at the time. Yeah, perfect. Under 20 minutes. Again, leave feedback for us on the audio quality, the video quality, and everything, because this is ultimately a test. And you know what? Leave feedback also if you love Weiss content. Like, drop a like, show the love and support for the Weiss content. If we, if I thought there was not a lot of viewers for this stuff, but if you guys show that there is an audience for it, there's no reason we shouldn't be making more of these videos, like the Weiss videos, the deck profiles, and everything. So yeah, thank you for tuning in, everyone, and looking forward to reading your suggestions and comments. Subscribe, like, comment. Peace.